top off the Legend with fuel here and get a little cup of coffee at the Thumb here in Scottsdale. I've introduced you guys to this place before. Sorry for the background radio music, but check this out. They have 100 octane race gas. I think also 95 octane over there. I won't be putting that in this car. I'm gonna pull a little bit ahead and put traditional 91 octane, but let's see how much we could get this for. $9.89. All set, we will roll on home. Good morning and welcome back to yet another Acura Legend anniversary video. The last time we talked about celebrating anniversaries, it had to do with celebrating 20 years with the 94 LS Coupe 6-speed that I bought in March 2003. But 5 years after that, in May of 2008, I bought a matching car, which is a 94 Legend GS 6-speed sedan. So mechanically, these cars are about as identical as you can get. There's Desert Mist Metallic, Type 2 6-speed manual cars. One of them has way more miles than the other, but I always thought it was kind of a novelty to have twin cars. And so when the chance popped up, after basically, as I do, stalking the owner for about 4 years in this case, I picked up this 94 Legend GS as a companion to the LS Coupe. So I'm not going to get into great detail on the backstory of this car because I actually have a separate video from a few years ago that I posted in 2020, as well as another video from when I celebrated 10 years with it. So I'll link to both of those here in case you want to go back and look at them. But today I'll just walk you through a teeny bit of updates on what's happened over the last few years, and then we'll see what the future brings. Before we get too deep into that, I did want to recognize huge thank you to my friend Tim. He sent me a blue shirt just recently with his white coupe featured, and now we're looking at a black shirt with my green coupe on it. So it says Legend Reborn. Legends don't age with time, we just get in style. So huge thanks, Tim. Love this t-shirt. I was actually wearing it yesterday. Otherwise, I'd have it on again today, but it's an incredible design and I will be proud to rock it. Now, first things first, in May 2020, around that time frame, I was doing videos on each of my cars because it was lockdown time during the pandemic and I didn't have a ton else to do. So this car had 161,945 on the odometer in May of 2020. Now, 3 years later, it's at 164,557. So 2,612 miles over the course of about 3 years. Now, that's not very high accumulation, but I have other distractions to keep me busy, as you can see. So that's a fair amount. I figure it's a good number of miles to keep things circulated and flowing without letting it kind of sit still for too long. And as with any of my cars, I try and get this thing exercised every few weeks, if not more, just because of that reason. So cosmetically, it's held up pretty well. The hood has always had issues here. It previously had a clear bra that you can see the line where it is a distinction between paint colors and quality, but the clear coat is really starting to fail up here, and at some point I will have that addressed. Probably the whole car could stand for a repaint. And I'll show you in some of the photographs, this car came from Illinois originally, and it actually did have a little bit of traditional Honda rust here around the wheel arches in the back. So here's a little walk down memory lane. I'm gonna take time right here in this picture. By the way, this was taken by my friend John before I owned an NSX, so we were replicating an original Honda promotional photo, and he had his Berlina black NSX that he featured along with my two cars to come up with that great image. This is a random stack of pictures that I happen to have of the 94 Legend GS that I just kind of wanted to highlight, put some post-it notes on some special ones. This is the motor the day that I got the car. You can kind of see it had some dirt and grime on there, and I'll just kind of walk you through a couple of these. I don't know if I had them in a specific order, so I kept tags on them, but this is one of the days that I went to check out the car. I was driving my LS Coupe. This is obviously not Arizona. This is northern Utah in the dead of winter, and the car, this Legend GS had 132K on it when I bought it. So it was fairly low mileage. I mean, that was 2008. And this was actually the exact reading, 132021. This is harder to do with one hand on the camera. You can see this is where I was stopping to visit Kent, the prior owner, at his work. You can see my car in the background there. I was very persistent with him on expressing interest in the car all along. And funny enough, at that time, I drove a Legend GS Sirius White Pearl. So this was me taking the other GS to see my current GS. Incidentally, that white one, excuse me, ended up going to a friend in Houston, and a few years later was flooded in one of their storms. So unfortunately, I don't think it's still with us anymore. This is, as I was saying, the car had some corrosion on the wheel arches. So had that all taken care of. Another picture with my old white GS. Missed that car a lot. It was super clean. This is my dad and myself when we went to pick up this Legend. Looks like I had just installed a new Optima battery in it, a few other things. And speaking of dad, this was his car. I got him an Integra. It was actually an LS as a commuter, but I put GSR Fat Fives on it. And he drove around in that for a couple years in northern Utah. What else? One of the first photo shoots I did between the LS Coupe and the GS Sedan. You can see the beautiful Wellsville mountain range there. This is Cache Valley in northern Utah. Same city where I went to school at Utah State University around 2004 to 5. Speaking of other Hondas, there's my brother's 98 Prelude, base model 5-speed, super cool car that he had at the time when I bought this Legend. What else? This was the day I drove the Legend home from Utah. I, of course, stopped at some of the most picturesque spots I could think of. This one is called Vermilion Cliffs. It's on the Highway 89A between Kanab, Utah and Flagstaff, Arizona. This is meeting up with my friend Branson at his house. He had a Milano red coupe. That coupe also ended up changing hands within the Legend community. I sold it. He sold it to my mom. My mom gave it to me to sell. I sold it to my friend Alan in Florida. Last I heard, that car made its way to Georgia somewhere, but I haven't tracked it for a few years. This was, when I bought the Legend, I had a Barbados yellow four-wheel steer Prelude, and I was overloaded on parking. So this was taken at my work parking garage, where I was sort of car shuffling for a few weeks until I eventually sold that Prelude. That was a lot of fun. What else? All kinds of goodies here. So knowing this car came from a salt state, I went to painstaking lengths to detail the underbody. I had the entire undercarriage kind of scuffed up and repainted it to keep it from corroding. And I can honestly say this car's only driven in rain maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 15 years. I really just try hard to not get it wet because it had some corrosion history. This is kind of fun. I went through a few sets of wheels on this. You'll recognize those are 17-inch TL Type S wheels. Really love that look. And then obviously I had my aftermarket Racing Hearts. These are 19-inch Racing Heart C2 3-piece diamond cut wheels, very rare wheels, and then TSX wheels as well. So that was a good look. What is my friend Aaron doing here on the top of the car? This was at a SoCal meet. I used to go pretty regularly out there for Southern California stuff. We'd have Legend meets on the top of the parking garage in Santa Monica, so I could drive out there. I would leave Arizona in the morning, drive out there, be in Santa Monica in time for lunch 6 hours later, and then drive home that night. That was my crazy days as a young 20-some-year-old kid. But anyway, that's a fun little memory lane tour for you. And as always, you know, it's all about documentation. I love owning and enjoying these cars, but I also love preserving the history and the memories that go with them. So I hope you all take an opportunity, any chance you get, to document your adventures in automotive, and you'll enjoy them, trust me, years down the road. Now, as I did with one of my other videos, I want to give you some additional bonus content here in case you want to stick around and watch it. One of them is my friend Rick has a channel. I'll show you a sticker from his YouTube channel here. It's called RAD Garage. He's one of the world's kind of most brilliant automotive detailers I've ever met. And I have a sticker here of his logo. But Rick featured me on his YouTube channel just recently for an hour-long live stream. And we had some great Q&A, some great dialogue. and I will link you to that so you can check it out. Thank you, Rick, for having me on the show. And then a couple other things. I attended a short get-together at Acura of Peoria this past weekend for NSX Club members. That was a lot of fun, so I'll share some footage from that. And then last but not least, I wanted to throw in a little bit of footage from my neighbor taking delivery of a C8 Corvette. That just happened this past week as well. It was fun to be outside when the transport truck delivered that car. So I'll share that as well. And as always, thank you all for watching. Oh yeah, before I forget, gosh, 14,000 subscribers, you guys. I was super thrilled to see that number achieved just recently, and I can't thank you all enough for tuning in. I really didn't put much effort into YouTube up until really just a few years ago. And even now it's just kind of like for fun on the side, but getting connected to such a great community and having you all chime in and comment from time to time really makes my day, and it makes it all worthwhile. So as always, thank you for tuning in, and looking forward to having you with me for a long time. Take care. This is Acura of Peoria. We're having a oh geez, I left it at home. I'm getting called out right now. So this was part of the Arizona NSX group on Facebook, which I'm not super well connected to. I should stay more in touch, but I found out about this through a friend. And a lot of these folks were the same ones who came to our NS Expo event last October. We had about 112 cars here in the Phoenix area for that event. By the way, this year's NS Expo is taking place in, I want to say late September in Atlanta. If anybody's in that region, wants to be a part of it, it'll be a good time. But anyway, I'll show you a couple of cars here and we'll make a day of it. Here's a look inside the showroom. Obviously, you're fine. A couple of these special cars up front are the PMC edition. You can tell from the bronze colored wheels. And then this one is the Long Beach Blue Pearl, which is a really cool combination. This looks like car number, I can barely see that, 54. I think it's car 54 out of 100. And beautiful combo there. Yeah. Of course, my vehicle of choice was not allowed to be parked in the heat of all the action because I'm in this Project Legend GS. That's okay. I'll just be right here on the sidelines.
It is. There it is.
My neighbor just took delivery of a C8 Corvette, and it's stunning, getting dropped off here in the middle of the street, but we're gonna take a up close personal look at it. Super huge congrats to him.
Hold on, James.
And the first drive is complete.
Have you guys seen even pictures of this actual car? It goes right to the factory of the carrier.